you
Yay!
are.
Hi.
Hello.
So nice to see you.
So nice to see you.
Wonderful. I was just telling everyone how it's Vata season here in the Northern Hemisphere and preparing them for what to do to get ready for Vata season. But now that you're here, I can say hello. This is Dr. Bill Dean, our guest for today, and we're talking about energy science and energy medicine. And let's just get some background on you, Dr. Bill. Tell us how you found Ayurveda. How did you get into Ayurveda yourself?
Sure. I was interested in a fellow by the name of Deepak Chopra back in the 90s. And
Mhm.
so I went to his meditation seminar and weekend seduction of spirit. And then as that evolved, I became more and more infatuated with the concept of what Deepak was talking about. So I then became interested in my own health after doing public workshops in my area. And so I went to the Ayurvedic Institute, and that
Mm,
was in 2000. And I've
good.
been going there since, and then finished with a fellowship at the Institute, doing patient care and understanding more about the Ayurvedic journey, deepening my understanding, and now I'm teaching.
Ah, beautiful. Yeah, so we have similar backgrounds because I studied with Deepak and I studied with Dr. Ladd too.
Oh, really? Really? I knew that you and I were contemporary in the organization because you and I were going through it around the same time, I think.
Yes, yes. So
Sometime.
wonderful. So you've come upon all of this stuff with energy medicine, which I think is so fascinating. So you say that Ayurveda is an energy science. So why do you call it that? How did you get that distinction?
Lisa, I am a big believer in contrast, that we only learn by contrast. That, up is down, up and down, hot and cold,
Hmm.
energy science and matter science. So
Hmm.
how do we get this concept of energy science? And it's really articulated from a concept, a mathematical concept about our relationship or the relationship that we have with nature herself. And that is E equal mc squared. And 100 years ago, E equal mc squared was articulated and everybody put the kibosh on it, but it opened up actually a broad window of understanding. And everybody now believes that, the energy or the concept has allowed us to put people on the moon. It's allowed us to develop this beautiful interaction between you and I and our participants. It's done all of these things, and it's all based on a different way of viewing nature. But the problem for us now is that our biological model is still stuck for many different reasons in this molecular paradigm that doesn't allow us to see the diversity of what it means to be human. That is
Hmm.
to say, we are simultaneously, from this equation, E equals mc squared, E and m are equivalent at a constant. That is, that the biological model is both energy and matter, that you and I simultaneously coexist as both energy and matter, that
Hmm.
we're an energy expression, a waveform, and we are also a matter field or a molecular expression. And
Hmm.
that's what we do our healing with today, the matter science. The matter
Right.
science dictates how we do things.
Yeah, let's kind of break that down a little bit more because um, I'm not as scientific, you know. You
No,
got your
no, this is great.
so matter. I understand is our prakriti, what we're made of: air, space, fire, water, and earth. Right.
Right.
So E energy equals matter. Then what's the C?
Oh, c squared is actually this. square of the speed of light. That's a constant.
Okay, so that's a constant.
So it doesn't, C squared doesn't really factor in because E and M are equivalent at a constant. So the constant never changes, so E and M are essentially equal to one another.
Okay, I see. Okay, so it's not the same Einstein equals MC squared thing. It's a different.
Oh no, it's the same.
It's the same. Okay.
It's the same equation. It's just saying that energy and matter are equivalent. That is to say, let's see, if I look at this stapler here, this stapler is actually very hard, and if I put my finger in it, I can staple my finger. There's some real firmness and substance to this. But just as I can see this as a molecular group of molecules, I can also see this as a group of energy flows. That is, this is energy, really. It's an energy, it's a dynamic of energy.
Okay. Okay. I get it.
The richness of this is that we can look at our bodies as molecules, or we can look at them as energy, but they're one and the same. They're one and the same. So that what I do in the molecular healing way, if I give somebody an antibiotic that is a group of molecules, those molecules actually have energetics that are applied to my energy field as well.
Okay. So how can we use this ourselves in our own health, in us preventing diseases, for example, or staying healthy?
Well, actually, there are a couple of different things. The first is that it allows us to be able to see ourselves in a different way. That is to say, it allows us to see our healing done in a different way. So healing then becomes a framed in energetics, not in molecules. And because of that, because I'm not so stuck in the molecular way of seeing my body, I can see the origins of disease. Now, right now, really, the matter science model does not know the origin of diseases. I mean, if you ask somebody, why did I get this cancer, doctor? He says, I don't know, it's bad luck, I guess, you know. But the energy science can tell you the origin of your disease. Let me give you another example. My wife this morning faints. She passes out on the bedroom floor. And so I check her pulse, look at her, and she's talking to me, etc., etc. And so eventually she pulls herself up. She's okay. She's walking around, a little weak. She's weak, but she's okay, you know. And so my son, who's visiting, said, you know, we should call the doctor. So he calls the matter science doctor, and he gets the nurse, of course. The nurse says, well, it sounds like everything's okay. No neurological changes, nothing wrong with the laboratory because she was just seen recently. There is no arrhythmia. There's nothing changed in her pulse. So everything looks okay to me. But from an Ayurvedic standpoint now, it's clear that rasa dhatu is depleted.
Okay, so tell us what is.
So Ayurveda can explain that phenomena. Ayurveda can explain why she passed out. And it was all because of vata vitiation. And you know about vata vitiation, right? So the issue is that Ayurveda can give you an explanation for anything that happens in your physiology. Anything, whether it's cancer, whether it's a syncopal or a fainting episode, or whether it's why am I so tired, or why am I getting bloating in my stomach, why am I having irregular bowel pattern, all related, all defined and really understood, and that is the origin of disease. The second biggest thing here, Lisa, is that Ayurveda, is contrasting, and we're talking about contrast here. The contrast from the matter science and the energy science, the matter science doesn't understand the origin of disease, nor, the second point is, nor does it understand the true nature of transformation or digestion in the body. The mind-body has this concept from an energy perspective now of this concept of Agni. Agni, we get our word ignite from this word Agni, but Agni is a very, very important term. It is the center focus in Ayurveda in terms of health. If you got lousy Agni, you're bound and determined to have poor health. Why? Because ama, or undigested, unprocessed food, thoughts, emotions, they all get poorly digested. And when that happens, we get sick. We get sick because of ama, of undigested food, thoughts, feelings, emotions. So the key here is that this is a central theme for disease. How do we get sick? Because we have poor Agni. It's said that, if I have good Agni, if you give me poison, I can digest it. But a person who has poor Agni and they try to digest it, good luck. They'll get sick and die. So the importance of Agni is very important. Yeah.
Right. And so going back to your example of just comparing the East and the West too, of your wife who fainted, and then the Western matter doctor says, oh, everything's fine now, nothing you can do, right? But the Ayurvedic doctor, you, says, oh, I understand it's a Vata aggravation, we need to balance her Vata, and then you do have things that you can do, solid, concrete, practices that you can implement, so you can not only make her feel better right then, but hopefully prevent this from happening in the future. So is that correct?
Bingo. And that's a great segue into the next point, which is actually, Lisa, that because I know the origin of disease, I can prevent disease.
There you go.
So the energy science has the capability of true prevention of disease because it understands the origin of disease. If you talk to a matter science doctor and you ask him, what can I do to be healthy? He said, oh, well, why don't you, he'll maybe have, or she will have some, documents in the office. Here's a good weight loss program, or here's a weight program, or here's a diet program. It's the next molecular fad diet. Or, maybe you should exercise, take out a subscription at Gold's Gym. That'll get you healthy, And so all of these various things are not really at the basis of how we can be healthy. And Ayurveda says that in order to be healthy, we need to adopt, this is the key, we need to adopt certain basic lifestyle behavior patterns. Now, it's becoming evident in the molecular or matter science literature today that if you develop good lifestyle patterns, then you'll be healthy. The real conjecture here is, well, what is a healthy lifestyle pattern? What is it that I can do in order to be healthy? And Ayurveda has rich, rich wisdom about when to go to bed, when to eat your biggest meal, what things are best to avoid, what things are best to do. You know, meditation fits into these categories, but you know, really, when you get down to it, meditation is just a small piece of the overall concept of health.
Yeah.
But you know, the molecular field, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, and it's very individualized. They don't say the same thing for everybody. You wouldn't get the same recommendations as I would get, which is what
Yes.
the typical Western medicine does. You know,
Yes.
Western medicine may go by your height and your age and your gender to say how much you would weigh. But that's not what Ayurveda says. It's very much more individualized. So you know, I think it can address our own personal needs so much better.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, because you know, if I'm looking at a study on irritable bowel syndrome, and I'm
Mm.
writing a book on the process, but the issue is, you know, from a Western perspective, people lump people together in these studies, and Ayurveda can't do lumping because it's not possible because the individual is entirely different. So the way we're going to report our study findings is through case study management rather than trying to do groups of people who are slammed into a particular category and say, okay, we did this to them and now we're going to see the results. Because as you point out, very important point is that the individual is all it is where it's at with Ayurveda.
Right, because I know that with Western medicine, particularly with IBS, because I went through it, you know, they'll prescribe the same pill to everyone who comes in with IBS, and that's not what they need, you know.
Totally,
And
totally,
they
absolutely.
ask you, like, what are you eating? Like, the very first thing they should be asking you, what are you eating, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
But I know, because people online, they're asking questions, you know, particularly if someone has IBS. I know one thing that I often recommend is Triphala or Digestone,
Right.
and that's good. But even then, the proportion of how much you should take depends upon what your dosha is and everything too, right?
You're right. You know, and really, the molecular or matter science identifies that there are actually three forms of IBS. There's the constipation form, there's
Mm-hmm.
the diarrhea form, and then there's the third form, which is a combination of the two. Well, constipation form is Vata imbalance. The
Mm-hmm.
diarrhea form is Pitta imbalance, and the combination is Vata Pitta combined. You know, so but we need to address each one of those particular issues separately. You know, so you know, for somebody who has diarrhea IBS, their issues of dealing with their disease state would be a little bit different because if you gave Triphala to an IBS diarrhea type or a Pitta form, they might really get worsened. So the
Mm-hmm.
issue is you might want to try them on Bhumi Amlaki rather than on Triphala, just
Okay.
to avoid their problems. So again, it's exactly what you were saying. Well,
Mm-hmm.
we have to tailor our treatment according to who is in front of me right now.
Right. And that's where an Ayurvedic practitioner comes in, I think, a
Yeah.
lot. Right? It's good for us to see an Ayurvedic practitioner. You know, there's a lot of self-care things that we can do, and I think preventive medicine, definitely we can do all that. But if we start having a chronic illness, then it's a good idea to see someone in person who can take our pulse and really give us a good recommendation.
Yeah. You know, right now what I've been doing is a lot of telemedicine. And telemedicine is essentially, seeing somebody just like I'm watching you right now. But
Mhm.
if we wanted to, I could do your pulse. I could just check in to your energy field.
Really, how
And
do you do
and
that?
people say, "Oh, that's just impossible." But in reality, it's relatively simple. And I have my students at the in the clinic. You know, we do a class, and we'll check in with a client, and the client, we've just now these students have just started learning pulse. They understand the VPK paradigm in the pulse, and 7 out of the 8 who watched this woman online checked in, and they were able to get her constitutional makeup through the pulse on the first time. So what we're talking about, this is not rocket science. This is just understanding ourselves. I'm checking in with your energy field, and your energy field and mine are interacting at a distance, but nonetheless, we're able to do that through the technology.
So you don't need any special equipment. I mean, you don't have to literally like feel my pulse. You could get it.
I feel your pulse through my pulse.
Oh my gosh. So how am I doing?
Well, we should check in. We could check in. Yeah. So, you know, that telemedicine is really a great way to, as a matter of fact, telemedicine is, if you look at the Western academic centers, University of Oregon in Portland here in the Northwest, their biggest growing department is telemedicine. And what they're doing, you see, they're accessing their patients. Say somebody lives out in the western part of the state, and they're going to have to drive all the way to Portland to see their doctor, their gastroenterologist, or whoever, their rheumatologist. And now what they're doing is they're checking their patients by phone. So it's just another avenue of care, but it obviates the need for that person in the western part of the state to drive all the way to Portland in order to see their doctor at OSHU.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, so I like lost track of all our questions here because we just got off on a tangent, but that's like, this is such important stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And really, I think this is probably the way the Ayurvedic physicians did it originally when Ayurveda was, it's all a lot about energy, connecting with people, a lot of intuition involved. Is that right?
Totally. Absolutely. Absolutely. But you know, the thing that I think is an important thing to remind our listeners is that the issue is if we buy into this concept of lifestyle behavior patterns, we live an Ayurvedic lifestyle. We eat an Ayurvedic nutritional format that's appropriate for our mind-body constitutions. We avoid incompatible food combinations. We don't excessively drink fluids that waters down our Agni. We pay attention to our Agni. We pay attention to the details around getting good rest. We don't burn the candle at both ends, so to speak. Now, the magical thing about this, Lisa, is that if we do these things, if we do all these lifestyle behavior patterns, we have those in place. We're doing them on a regular basis. What happens is the mind-body automatically starts shedding excess vibrational frequencies that it doesn't need. It's kind of like if I cut my hand, I say, oh, darn it. And then I say, oh, it's okay, it'll heal up, it's no problem. The body knows how to do that. Mm-hmm. The body knows how to release as well. The body knows how to heal itself. We don't need to have the best next multivitamin. We don't have to have the best next juiciest fruit smoothie. Mm-hmm. We don't have to do all of these things in order to be healthy. We have to be able to get out of the way.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that we learn that the body has intelligence. The body knows what to do. We don't have to say, heart, are you beating? Come on, do your job. You know,
I think I should jump on you.
It's not fast enough right now. Come on, pick up the pace. You know. So the body has intelligence, and we need to let it do its thing. But also, as you're saying about this energy science, food also has an intelligence. And
Yeah.
food will go because it's conscious, right? And it's alive and living. And food knows what to do when it gets into your system. So as long as we're eating correctly, we're eating the right foods, it has that intelligence. But, you know, like kids, especially, they want to eat the junk foods. And I was teaching at a high school one time, and I told them that that's not junk food, it's stupid food. And they're like, why stupid food? I said, because it has no intelligence, you know. And they like,
Right.
you know, I explained it to them.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
Ayurveda is so good in that way, in that everything has that innate intelligence, and we just need to, you know, be aware. Now, what
Right.
about the herbs too? Because sometimes when we're out of balance, and you know, the Ayurveda experience just started. We have herbs on our website now, and
Yeah.
so people can buy the herbs that they need for a particular
Yeah.
illness and stuff.
Yeah.
How do we find out which herbs we might need for which particular illness? Because each herb is going to have an energy to it as well, right?
Right. You know, I think that's a dicey question because I think that until one is pretty well along and versed in Ayurvedic principles, and you have some Vaidya or doctor, Ayurvedic physician to be able to help guide you. I personally believe that the herbal realm should be left out. You know, and let's face it, we are a drug-oriented society, right? We were taught back in the 70s and 80s and 90s, we were taught that, look, if you want health, come to me. I've got the pill, I've got whatever in order to help you be healthy. And because of that, we've translated, over the last 20 years, we've translated health into meaning that I have to take a pill. Well, that naturally translates then, actually, Lisa, into the Ayurvedic model of saying, well, if it worked in the matter science model, then it should work in the energy science. So if I want health, then I really should take a herb, or I should take something to be healthy. But I think that Ayurveda says that, actually, this is a basic quote, 80% 80% of all disease in the physiology can be dealt with by just behavioral pattern, lifestyle changes in and of themselves. 80%. Now, I'm not saying that rheumatoid arthritis is going to be helped by, doing lifestyle behaviors if it's an advanced disease. But let me give you an example. We did a study of people who had interstitial cystitis. That's a problem of a non-bacterial infection in the bladder. And so people act as if they have a bladder infection, but in reality they don't. They have a pitta imbalance, right? They have a pitta vata imbalance. So the pitta vata imbalance is there in their bladder. What we did was we just said, okay, do these two things. Do some lifestyle stuff and eat a diet appropriate for your mind-body constitution. At the end of 6 weeks, 90% of those people had a 50% or more reduction in their symptom complex.
Wow.
Just by doing diet alone. So what I was saying earlier about get out of the way is really it's another way of saying stop macinating about what's the next best diet on Google, but start thinking about what the energy science says to me in terms of lifestyle behavior patterns that can help me shed those excess vibrational frequencies in the energy field that are making me sick.
Right, right. And you know, Ayurveda is 5,000 years old. It's tried and true and practiced, and it doesn't recommend anything that can harm you or that is bad for you. So many people have lived it and continue to live it. I'm a living example. I've been practicing Ayurveda for 20 years now, and My health has greatly improved. I'm 54 years old and I feel like I'm 30, you know.
Good.
If you
You look
guys,
it.
thank you. If you guys watching, I have some questions for you, Dr. Bill, but if you guys watching want to learn how to live an Ayurvedic lifestyle, the best way to do that is to participate in our e-course, the Ayurveda Experience, because this is 7.5 hours worth of video. We cover everything, and it will give you the tools to be able to take care of yourself. You know, we talk about food, we talk about yoga, we talk about meditation, we talk about the seasons and the calendar and, you know, pretty much everything you can think of. And when we did this course, I don't know if you know this, Dr. Bill, but we filmed it in India, right where I started.
Right, I remember.
It's really beautiful to watch, and there is original music and everything. So if you're on this webinar right now, we have a webinar special price for you, and we're going to post the link so that you can click it right then. And when you're at the Ayurveda Experience, you can look around and see all the fun new things we have, including the store and all that. So that would be really good.
Excellent.
So Dr. Bill, we have a question from Asunta. She says, what about diverticulitis? How would we treat that? Is there some way to do Western medicine with Ayurveda? I guess that's a pretty. Let's explain what you're an MD, so you know. Explain to people what diverticulitis is and how one might get it.
Yeah, you know, it's a Vata disorder because the colon has these little outpouchings that come out from the wall of the colon, and these little outpouchings then get swollen or infected, and then it produces an itis, an inflammatory process. People who have diverticulitis don't have it all the time. They have periods of time when they feel fine, but then they have an inflammatory burst, or what I would call a flare, and that flare then leads to the problems of pain, abdominal pain, etc., etc. So Ayurveda says that, well, there are some foundational things. So I tell students in the clinic, the first thing is we're going to do foundational stuff. What is foundational? Number one, do a diet appropriate for your mind, body, constitutional energy makeup. So what I did in Foods Heal, which is the book that I initially came out with about 5 years ago, we did a duodoshic pattern because most of us are duodoshic. That is, we have 3 doshas that allow us to, 3 energy patterns that make us work as biological energy fields. So Vata, Pitta, Kapha are present, but usually most of us have 2 that are dominant, and therefore 2 are expressed in prominence. So these 2 energy patterns, Pitta Vata or Pitta Kapha or Vata Kapha, these energy patterns then can be tied together in terms of dietary recommendations. So our friend is more than likely Pitta Vata or Vata Pitta, and she would follow then a Pitta Vata nutritional format. Just doing that is a major step in the appropriate direction. The second thing is avoiding incompatible food combinations. These are really, really important, you know, because they get people sick, literally. The third thing is to follow the dinacharya, the day in balance. So what is the day in balance? Well, I go to bed early, I wake up early, I do yoga, pranayama, meditation, and then I get ready for the day. There are specific things that are part of the dinacharya, such as oil swishing and even doing neti. In our neck of the woods in the Northwest, neti is pretty important because it's such a cold, kapha-like climate. So neti is very, very useful here. But if you're living in the Northwest or Southwest, maybe not so much. But the idea is that these are parts or components of the day in balance. The next thing is maybe eat breakfast. But if you're not hungry, don't eat breakfast. The biggest meal should be at noon, always at noon, and a lesser, smaller meal at the dinner time. Now, this is basically a day in balance, but as you can see, I've outlined a lot here in just a very short period where people have to get used to doing this kind of lifestyle. But this is the foundation for lifestyle behavior pattern change, and it will definitely make a difference. One thing I wanted to add, Lisa, here is that, you know, Ayurveda is not a substitute for Western medicine. I believe that the true system of health in the future is an integrated system where Western medicine and Ayurveda go hand in hand. My vision is that someday we will have Ayurvedic physicians on a house staff in a Western-based matter science hospital, that it will offer panchakarma in that hospital, and that it will open up all kinds of different avenues, that the hospital pharmacy will not just be Western pharmaceuticals, it will have a rich herbal pharmacy as well, and that it will be ready and able to support either science. Because I'm not saying that the energy science is the one and all and be all, and I'm not saying the matter science is the one and all and be all, which it is today. What I'm saying is we really need an integrated system. And because you and I are matter and energy fields. We're simultaneously coexisting. So we need a healing discipline to take care of each one of those parts of us, one aspect of us. And right now what's happening is, well, everybody gets the matter science lingo. And that's not helpful. And it's not going anywhere. And you and I are as disappointed as everybody on this call about what's happening in the matter science. And I can tell you that my friends in the matter science are not happy either, because they know that they don't have all the answers. And so it's important for us to get together.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with that. And you know, you talk a lot about foods and foods heal, especially, and digestion and the importance of digestion, and how can energy science and everything you have, how can we bring that into our digestion? Why is our digestion so important?
I kind of blocked out. It kind of cut off. Could you repeat that again?
So it's about the physiologic concept around digestion typically separates energy science from matter science, but you're saying it's very important to integrate that, right?
Yes, right. So
talk about digestion.
Yeah, that's a great question. Very beautiful, because it opens up a very important concept of what differentiates the matter science from the energy science. The matter science says, okay, I've got this molecule here, and this molecule goes over here and it does this kind of thing, and it goes into the cell and it does this kind of thing. And what the energy science says is, well, we see the body in a different way. We see it through qualities. And so these qualities are actually vibrational frequencies, and there are 10 pairs of them. And these 10 pair of qualities are completely consistent with the contemporary string theory that is trying to define nature in and of itself as an energy field. It's called the unified field theory in another way, but it's a very important concept from a science point of view. And Ayurveda is totally consistent with the current string theory, because the current string theory says that all matter, the physicists are saying this, all matter is composed of 10 vibrational strings. 10 vibrational strings. There are 10 qualities, pairs. So when a string moves up, and it moves down, it's actually moving through its opposites. So it's moving hot, then it moves cold. It moves heavy, then it moves light. So each one of these strings, actually physicists and Ayurveda are completely symbiotic in terms of their understanding of nature herself. And I think that that's so interesting and dynamic because it says essentially Ayurveda's 10 qualities, its 10 gunas, are actually what composes all of nature.
Yes, absolutely.
Light and heavy, cold and hot, slimy, smooth, dry, rough, hard, liquid, dense. All of these opposing qualities are all what makes up nature. So you'd say, well, what the heck does that have to do with anything? Well, it makes us better witnesses. Because what happens if I notice, boy, I am really getting cold out here. It's the dead of winter. I'm really cold. What's happening to me? Oh, I may be vata vitiating myself. I better get warm. Not to avoid freezing, but to just avoid imbalancing my physiology.
Right, and a lot of it common sense too, because you're really cold and you wouldn't go eat an ice cream cone. You want the opposite, right? You go have a hot bowl of soup or something.
Exactly. So if I'm outside and it's cold, I go in and get some hot chocolate, right? I treat myself, right? But you know, the converse is also true. Say I'm going to go to the restaurant and I sit down at the restaurant and the waitress comes up and she says, enjoy your meal, here's your cold water. So they give you a glass of ice water and say, enjoy your meal. Well, that's totally contradictory to what Ayurveda would say in terms of being health aware. So by understanding that, we see how Ayurveda can give us some help with respect to how we can be healthy and how we can avoid things that make us unhealthy that are common practices in our society today.
Exactly. Yeah. So I have some comments for you. Deanna says, as an engineer, I'm loving what Dr. Bill is saying. Tamara is saying, your vision of the merging of the two sciences is wonderful, and hopefully this will occur sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
And then question, what are incompatible food combinations? And we do talk about this quite extensively in the Ayurveda experience, but I can give you one example, you guys. Smoothies, a lot of times, they'll put fruit and then they'll put milk in there. You don't want to ever mix fruit and milk. So can you give us some other examples, Dr. Bill?
Well, in general, Lisa, I think the concept of fruit with anything is just a good rule of thumb. So what makes a great snack? Fruit. Because you're not going to be mixing it with other things. And we're looking sometimes for fruit, for snacks, quite honestly, most of the things that we're looking for when we're out of balance are actually unphysiologic cravings. They're cravings of things that we think we need, but we really don't need them. The body is giving us actually I should say, the body never, ever, ever, ever lies. The body's sensations will never lie to us, but the mind will, because the mind is a very devious field. It's a very disjointed field, and it's a very karmically driven field that unfortunately leads us down a primrose path that is not very healthy. So the issue for us is to really kind of be able to separate out the unphysiologic from the physiological. Like, I've been working out and I've been sweating a lot, then it's really important for me to drink water. That's not an unphysiological need. That's truly a physiological craving that I'm having at that moment in time. But the unphysiological cravings get us into trouble. And one of those is, the things that we've talked about. One of the other things, like eggs with cheese and meat. Well, that's a taco. But, those are incompatible food combinations. Eggs shouldn't be mixed with meat and cheese. Or beans with cheese and meat. And that's a enchilada. But yes, beans and cheese and meat are bad combinations. And milk, as you mentioned, with eggs, not a good combination. But, when I was growing up, my mom said, I want to make these eggs last a little longer, so I'm going to add some milk to the eggs in order to make scrambled eggs. So that's what we did my entire childhood. We had milk with eggs, which is a bad incompatible food combination. But so those are some of the examples. Yeah. So.
Okay. So you mentioned this LBP. What's LBP?
Oh, lifestyle behavior patterns.
Okay, great. Okay, lifestyle behavior. That's what we're talking about, our daily routine and keeping that. Okay, great. And I think somebody's asking what your dosha is. And they're guessing Kapha Pitta, and they're guessing mine is Pitta Vata. But I'm like very, very Vata, and my second is Kapha.
Well, that's interesting. You're actually, in my mind, you're a Vata Pitta. I'm a Pitta Vata, actually. But the trickiness for me is that I have a lot of liquid and oily in my physiology as gunas or qualities. So sometimes I can look like a Pitta Kapha. My son looks like a Pitta Vata, but he's actually Pitta Kapha by pulse. So the issue is Vata Kaphas are very unusual duodoshic combinations. So let's do your pulse.
Oh, you can do that?
Yeah, just close your eyes. Just let me just check in here. Yeah, so you're actually, I would call you a V3P2K1.
Okay, you have to explain that to everybody.
So that means that you have 3 parts Vata, 2 parts Pitta, 1 part Kapha. So actually your duodoshic is Vata Pitta. Vata Kapha would be unusual. The most unusual is a person who's totally VPK. That is, they're tridoshic.
Yes.
Those people are, Dr. Lott has done a lot of pulsages in his lifetime, and he says he has only seen 1 true VPK in his lifetime.
Wow. Well, Venu looks with
that's over thousands of pulses, thousands of them. So,
well, before you leave, I should have you do Venu's pulse, because Venu, who works with us, I think she's tridoshic, because I can't nail down exactly which dosha she is. I mean, maybe it's always in flux. I can't nail it down.
That's interesting, because sometimes what makes it confusing is ama. The presence of ama sometimes distorts the nadi. It alters the nadi. So then you get a disruption or a distortion of the nadi, and that can happen. Yeah.
Interesting. Oh, great. Okay, so do you have anything you need to tell everybody before we wrap it up?
Oh, I just wish everybody the best and all the love in the world, because it's a very interesting time that we have. And that we will only know ourselves when we begin to have unconditional love for ourselves. Unconditional love rules. It rules the physiology. And the energy science is clear about that. It's very clear. So I wish everyone unconditional love for themselves.
Oh, beautiful. Well, thank you so much for your wisdom and for your time and for helping all of us so much. You're fascinating, and I just love you so much.
Yeah.
And thank
Well,
you, everyone, for being here. You guys are the best, and we do have one more day of our webinar tomorrow with Dr. Nancy Lonsdorf. We're going to be talking about East and West, and I'm sure she has some feelings on integrating the two, too, which would be really good.
absolutely.
Meanwhile, make sure you check the chat box because you can click on the link and get the Ayurveda experience at the webinar price. And when you get it today, you also get a free special report which will tell you your dosha and give you recommendations for your dosha. And usually you'd have to pay for that separate report, but this is all included today. So I will see you guys. Please, everyone, come back tomorrow, same time, same channel. And Dr. Bill, I hope to see you very soon, too. Okay.
The same. Love. Bye-bye.
Lots of love. Bye.